Congress passes a $2 trillion emergency stimulus package. Financial markets set historical records as checks are set to enter the homes of Americans. And while Democrats and the liberal media spew despair, President Trump urges unity and displays optimism. Liberal governors across the nation institute executive actions via stay-at-home orders, plucking away the constitutional rights of Americans in the name of health and safety. This morning, we shed light on the future of our country and all the congressional shenanigans of the week. I'm your host, Eric Wright, and this is the Closet Conservative Podcast. The coronavirus has now infected over 586,000 people worldwide and taken the lives of over 27,000 across the globe. Here at home, the CDC is reporting over 100,000 infections and 1,500 deaths across the United States. And as state governors continue to execute stay-at-home orders, President Trump is displaying optimism and a rapid resurgence of American strength. On Friday, the states of North and South Carolina have joined the ranks of others who have already issued stay-at-home directives. And per executive order, citizens of these states find themselves sheltering in place under the hope that these efforts will somehow diminish infection rates. With the absurd laundry list of exemptions, are these efforts more about political posturing than saving lives? In states across the nation under these stay-at-home orders, citizens are barred from working in non-essential industries. However, what they are allowed to do is mind-boggling. They can exercise in public parks, they can play golf and tennis, they can utilize public transportation such as buses and trains and automobiles and airplanes, purchase food and medicines from grocery stores and pharmacies for themselves and for their pets. And they can fill up their gas tanks at local gas stations. They can deposit checks and withdraw monies at their local bank. They can pick up household supplies at hardware stores and wash their clothes at local laundromats. And the list goes on and on. So I ask again, are these orders really going to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 virus or do nothing more than provide 15 minutes of fame to Democratic local and state lawmakers who believe that somehow shutting down a state looks really good for the TV cameras? Within these orders contain additional essential industries who will not be impacted or suspended. Job functions range from transportation and public works to healthcare and government agencies. However, not all industries are offered protection, and especially those within the firearms industry. In some areas, actions by anti-gun Democratic governors aiming for gun shops during declared states of emergency are forcing some to shut their doors. And this is a particular problem in jurisdictions where the state government controls the background check process. Last Saturday, New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy announced Executive Order 107, directing all non-essential retail businesses close to the public to include the Garden State's licensed firearm dealers. As the New York State Police runs the state's background check system, this also included turning off all online services for the NICS firearms transactions system, and a move that will remain in place until further ordered by Governor Murphy. Last Friday, Governor Andrew Cuomo from New York restricted employees of non-essential industries and businesses, triggered the closure of Remington's Ilion, New York factory. And in Pennsylvania, Governor Tom Wolf last week issued an order to close all non-life-sustaining businesses, a move which did not make an exemption for gun shops, despite warnings from firearm industry's attorneys that the governor could not direct such a closure. With threats of lawsuits materializing over the order, Wolf's office paused over the weekend on the issue while the state Supreme Court weighed in. And in the end, the liberal judge panel sided with the governor. Also on Friday, Rhode Island Governor Gina Raimondo issued an executive order pushing the state's 7-day background check period on firearm transfers to 30 days. The move came on the urging of police officials who asked the governor for the increase, which would last until at least April 19th. And folks, in California, local municipalities are attacking gun dealers. San Jose Mayor Sam Liccardo declared that such shops are non-essential. And with that, local police went by to shut down the city's sole gun shop. In a time of panic and uncertainty, it would appear that local liberal politicians and Democratic governors across the United States are playing fast and loose with the Second Amendment rights of Americans. The fear that has been designed by Democrats and the liberal mainstream media, Americans are looking to ensure that they, their families, and their property remain protected, only and ultimately to be denied their God-given constitutional right to bear arms by a Democratic executive order. Liberal tomfoolery is taking place during this national novel COVID-19 emergency. On Wednesday, the Senate passed a $2 trillion stimulus plan to shore up the United States economy as it weathers the devastation of the coronavirus pandemic, and advancing the most massive fiscal stimulus package in American history. Folks, the U.S. national debt today is over $23 trillion. The stimulus package that was just passed by both the House and the Senate allows for up to an additional $4 trillion in federal spending, bringing the total COVID-19 financial response to over $6 trillion. Folks, that is 25% of today's current national debt. When all of this COVID-19 spending ends, the U.S. national debt will exceed $30 trillion. So what's in this $6 trillion spending plan? For you, me, local people, the legislation would send direct payments of $1,200 to Americans earning up to $75,000 a year, and which would gradually phase out for higher income individuals. Would also provide $500 per child. It would substantially expand jobless aid, providing an additional 13 weeks and a 4-month enhancement of benefits, and extending for them the first time to freelancers and gig workers, and adding $600 per week on top of the usual payment. The measure would also provide $350 billion in federal guaranteed loans to small businesses and establish a $500 billion government lending program for distressed companies reeling from the impact of COVID-19. It would also allow the administration to take equity stakes in airlines that received aid to help compensate taxpayers. And lastly, it would also send $100 billion to hospitals on the front lines of the pandemic. On Thursday, the U.S. Labor Department figures showed the number of claims rose for unemployment to 3.3 million people, beating a previous record of 695,000 in October 1982. Nearly every state cited the impact of COVID-19. Service industries, particularly accommodation and food services, were hit the hardest. Although states did also mention healthcare and social assistance, arts and entertainment and recreation, transportation and warehousing, and manufacturing industries also being hit. Across the United States, laid-off workers are completely overwhelming the state labor departments with claims for benefits. And in New York City, which now accounts for roughly 5% of global COVID-19 cases, there has been a 1,000% increase in claims. For our country's economy, markets rebounded after the worst financial loss since 2008. And on Tuesday, the Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped over 2,100 points, the single highest gain in American history. President Trump indicated that all loans issued to businesses would be repaid, unlike the 2008 corporate bailouts of General Motors and others during the Obama administration. Before President Trump signed the COVID-19 stimulus bill into law on Friday, Democrats, led by Speaker Pelosi, were busy attempting to churn as much pork and fatty finances for their liberal constituencies as possible. One significant item was a multi-million-dollar funding for the John F. Kennedy Performing Arts Center, which ended up getting $25 million. Democrats were sobbing that the Kennedy Center was closed to the public over COVID-19 and had to lay off all of its employees. They stated that the president, Deborah Ritter, is foregoing her $1.2 million annual salary in an attempt to preserve the solvency of the center. And in negotiations, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell inserted $1 million in the initial bill, only to be beat out by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who proposed a far more generous $35 million offer. It would also appear that despite small businesses closing and laying off employees across the entire United States, if your company bears the name Kennedy, your name goes to the top of the list. Despite business closures across our nation, it cannot go unnoticed that in times of crisis, the American people turn to collaboration and inspire innovation. Manufacturers across the country are changing their systems and production lines from making t-shirts to N95 masks and other personal protection equipment. On Friday, James Dyson, the founder of Dyson Vacuums, announced that he and his family had designed a new ventilator system in 10 days. It is called the Covent, and Dyson stated that these 15,000 new ventilator systems would be shipped out across the globe by early April. Also, Dyson noted that he would donate 5,000 units to international efforts to tackle the pandemic. While teachers and students are away from the classroom, confined parents across the nation are learning how to assist in the education of their children from home. Thousands are making countless humanitarian efforts of Americans. On Friday, star New Orleans Saints quarterback Drew Brees and his wife Brittany donated $5 million to the state to help his communities get through this tough time. In times of panic, and despite the bleak newscasts and dissemination of despair from CNN and MSNBC, the people of the United States are coming together as one, as a society of liberty and freedom, and to ensure the health and well-being of others. Generosity has absolutely exploded across this country. Man, woman, and child alike are looking out for their neighbors, dropping off food, personal items, and medicines to those in need or financially lacking. The United States has historically overcome adversity. We continue to illustrate that our need for government is far outweighed by our reliance on God and our fellow neighbors. While liberal Democrats fought for pork barrel spending, confined Americans at home fought for their lives, the lives of their neighbors, and their liberties. The state of our union, while facing substantial adversity, remains strong. Our president demands appropriate action and has directed a federal response to a crisis never once seen before in our nation's history. Our people are resistant. Our devotion to democracy is unwavering. And together, we will overcome. We will prevail. And we will return to a nation of resilience, to steadfastness, and a future that will mask the darkness brought on by this virus.
This is the Closet Conservative Podcast. All material copyright The Closet Conservative. Music courtesy of Greg Shields Music. Remember to subscribe to our podcast to receive all the latest episodes. We can also be found online at closetconservative.net or on Facebook and Twitter.